All right, and we're live. Welcome everybody to another edition of On Air with Lithium. My name is Jen Chen, and I'm the Sorry about that. I think there are some technology problems. So, just fill in whatever you think I was saying there, but it looks like we're live now. Sorry about the delay. We had some technology issues, but we're here and we're super excited to learn from you today. So, my name is Jen Chen, and I'm the community manager here at Lithium. I have a team of awesome people here with me, and we're excited to share what we've been up to here at Lithium, as well as just share a sneak peek at what's ahead. And if you have any questions anytime during this hangout about what you're hearing, go ahead and post in the blog post, the On Air with Lithium blog post, or go ahead and tweet with the hashtag On Air with Lithium at Lithium Tech, and we'll get those questions answered. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. If the rest of the team wants to go ahead and introduce themselves. I think so.
Yeah, so I click the wonderful unmute button. Hello, everyone. I'm John Dowden. I'm the documentation manager here at Lithium. I've been at Lithium just over 2.5 years, and let's see, we've got a team of 2 here, so I'll pass it to Susie so she can introduce herself. Finding the unmute button.
Yeah, always. Hi, I'm Susie Hopkins. I'm the other half of the documentation team. I've also been with Lithium for almost 2.5 years. I joined shortly after John. John and I used to work together at another company, and he brought me on here, and I couldn't be happier. I am responsible for all things customization and development that you find on the Lithium community.
Yeah, and then I handle the administration side for the community, as well as LSW and LSI and some of the cloud integration stuff. But really, Susie and I really tag team on all of the stuff that you see in the Lithium community documentation area, both the doc TKB as well as the developer area. And we're going to give you a little short history tour of where we were and where we are, and some previews of some stuff that we're working on that we're hoping to release this year. And pass over to you, Jeff.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jeff Stroud. I've been with Lithium for the better part of 7-8 years now, in one form or another. I head up our support team, so it's great to have a documentation team. John and Susie, when I started, that did not exist. So we still try and contribute a lot to our docs, as well as participate on the community quite a bit. Yeah, I think that's it. Andy?
Hey, thanks, Jeff. So my name is Andy Kay. I'm a moderation team lead and technical project lead for the Lithium community, and also kind of lead the administration side of the community as well. I've been with Lithium for 7.5 years, and so we're through moderation up to here, and kind of just help out where I can on the community. So I'll pass it back to Jen.
Okay, so again, we have a lot lined up for you guys today, and actually, just a quick teaser. I know oops, sorry. I know I teased this on Twitter between Lithium Tech, but just a fun fact: I am a baker, and I fed most of the panelists these peach tarts that I made, so they're very happy and probably all on sugar highs by now. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get started with the documentation information that we have for you guys today. So, John, do you want to kick things off?
Sure. So how do I share my screen here? Because I'm going to need to do that at some point. Huh? Where is, oh, is it up
on the left-hand side?
Just looking for the screen share. Okay.
You see it?
Yeah. So are you seeing the knowledge and support page? Good. So just before I sort of drive into the community site here and where their documentation lives, just a real short history of sort of where we were as a doc team a couple of years ago and projects that Susie and I have been working on and hopefully have been beneficial for all of you that are consumers and users of our documentation. So when we started here, most of the documentation was sort of trapped in PDF files. So you sort of had a long list of articles with PDF files attached to them that you sort of had to sift through and find your answer, and there was a lot of repetitive and out-of-date information in there. So one of our big projects for that first year was to sort of break out of the shackles of the PDF, and that's when we moved all of the Lithium documentation on the admin and studio side into TKB, and that's when we reinvented the doc knowledge base on Lithosphere, now called Lithium Community. And over the time, we have also converted the LSW, Lithium Social Web documentation, the LSI documentation, and all of that now lives in the doc knowledge base. We've also done integration with that content into the Lithium product, so the community admin and studio. If I can slip over to that tab. We have actually integrated context-sensitive help into the Lithium product so that if you're using it and you're trying to find information, all of these will link right out to the knowledge base articles that pertain to the page that you're viewing. So those are sort of some of the big projects we were working on over the last year and a half or so. And most recently, we did so as we sort of brought all that content into TKB, there was about 700 to 800 articles, and it was getting a bit unwieldy to scroll down the huge main list and then scroll down all the subsequent TKBs to find your content. So we worked with the community team and came up with a new design to organize and visualize the content in the knowledge base, and that's when we rolled out the new tile solution and broke up rather than having the one long list of content, we have an area for community and Lithium Social Web, analytics and developer docs, etc. And then in conjunction with that, we also knew that although a lot of people do search to try to find the article that they need, we know there are a lot of people out there that are still discovering and browsing and trying to wrap their head around various areas of the product. And one of the limitations that TKB had up until recently was that you couldn't control the order of the articles that appeared in the knowledge base. It was sort of like last edited, pop to the top, or so we worked with our development team to add in the ability to manually control the order of TKB articles. So for example, if we look at one of our current beta doc knowledge bases, we control the order now manually, so regardless of when something, we go in and make a change or an edit based on feedback from you or our internal team, rather than that reorganizing, it stays fixed. So we can control sort of like, here's your about information, and then roll the information sort of in order as we would like you to sort of discover and read through the documentation. And that's this UI over here that's in admin now, that when you turn on manual ordering, we can just sort of drag and drop, sort of like a Netflix queue, our articles, and we can fix that. So we're very excited about that, and we've reorganized and ordered all of the content out there. So hopefully it's a lot more easy for you all to digest. Our big current project, and I'll probably, I don't know if I can pass the ball to you, Susie, or I can bring it up and you can unmute and talk through it, and I can drive, is that we are looking to improve the way that we present the developer documentation. Up to now, we've had the old REST API v1 area, and we have been sort of rolling out a number of new developer tools and documentation to support those tools. And V2, for example, has started, was originally, as we went through beta, in the TKB, and some of the LSW stuff has been in TKBs. And we know that that's been not the most seamless and painless experience. So we've been working to revamp all of that and bring it together in what we're calling the DevDoc portal. So I'm going to show you a work in progress. It is by no means done, but we are hoping to, we're very close to approaching sort of our MVP for this experience and hoping to release it later this year. And I'll sort of bring it up here and let Susie talk, and I will drive as she talks about all the work that she's been doing closely with the developer team to do this.
Yeah, hi. So I think, as you know, if you've used your developer documentation, that it's in several places. There's a lot of information, such as all the free macro documentation that's in individual TKBs. We have this separate part of the website for API v1. We've got our LSW, which is in its own TKB, and then we've also got the new API for Community v2, which are in TKBs. So we're trying to do a few different things. One is to streamline our documentation so we can pull as much information as you can from the code, so like a Java doc solution or something like that, which keeps things up to date much faster and cuts down on some of the busy work in the reference type information, and then it frees me up to work on more tutorials and examples and more useful stuff, which is a better way to use me as a resource. So what we've tried to do is in this main page is kind of give you a home base. So you can see we've got these top navs for your home page where you can always go to reset if you want to. And then we kind of try to categorize things up for our REST APIs. So we've got API v1, which is what we're doing is pulling in the existing v1 documentation there. So this is probably what you're familiar with if you've used the developer docs here. Then we just created something new for v2, which I'm pretty happy about. And it brings together the TKB information into this area. Your screen just went away.
Yeah, it's coming back.
So what we've done is moved the reference documentation for v2 over into this site. John, if you could open up using Likewool and then go into reference. So we've got all of the, I don't hear myself anymore.
We hear you.
Okay, good. So if you click on boards, for example, we've brought in the TKB information, and then we've alphabetized, so you'll see all the resources here. And then if we keep scrolling down, then we get to the content information. So it's what you've been used to seeing, all the different fields. When we've added them as far as release status, we can link between different resources. And then if we keep going down, eventually we see how you can use these different fields in your Likewool queries and examples, etc. So we're trying to find, we're trying to bring a up-to-date, more modern documentation solution for this kind of thing. For the LSW APIs, we're linking out currently to the existing LSW documentation, and we're going to be hooking in the LSI bulk data API as well. That's work in progress right now. In the customization section, we've got more of your front-end APIs. So this would be your free marker, our new responsive solution as that starts becoming available. And so we've sort of separated things into more of your back-end logic and then your user interface design. In the SDK section, we've got our Lithium Cloud SDK, which is currently in open beta. So we're bringing in this right here. And then as we add more developer tools, this is the tab where you're going to be able to connect to that as well. And then finally, in the last bit, the authentication, our authentication information is spread out all over. So we're trying to just put it all in one spot. You can get all your answers and solution questions answered right there for you. So it's something that we're working on rolling out, and it's work in progress, and we are hoping that people are going to find it useful and easier to navigate.
So weird. Oh, so I probably should stop sharing the screen.
Kind of cool.
Did that help? Okay. Hopefully that worked. Awesome. Yeah. So we're really excited about this. We think it's going to really improve the whole developer doc experience. And as Susie said, it's really by being able to auto-generate as much of the reference material from the code, it's just going to free us up to provide more example and tutorial data and use cases for everybody. So we've talked for a bit. I don't know if there's been any questions that have come in through the tracker that we can address right now, or if anybody does have specific questions for Susie and myself, or for Jeff on the support side, or for Jen and Andy, please type them in. We had a hangout earlier this year or late last year. And that was sort of a free-for-all across all kinds of community topics. And we talked a little bit about doc, but there were some unanswered questions from that hangout. So just wanted to dig into a couple of those leftover questions first. And if you have questions as I'm talking, please type them in. Feel free to interrupt. And any other topics. So there were some questions about what we did as a doc team to sort of keep our content up to date, and sort of the tools that we did and used to do that. And as I said, we have all the developer doc that you just saw, Susie sort of sift through, and we have the 800 TKBs. That's a lot of content for two people to keep up to date on a monthly basis, while also writing all the new stuff. So we've got a number of things in process right now. So Susie and I regularly check into our knowledge base admin screen where people have put in, they've nominated posts. We have our support board that Jeff and his team manage, and when they see that some questions are trickling up or becoming common, or there's gaps in the documentation and they're getting answered on the support board side, we do have the nomination ability from that board to the TKB, and Susie and I check for those nominations on a weekly basis and either fold it into existing articles or create new articles as needed. So we have that. We've also done a lot of just internal partnership with the individuals, the whole support team, our product management team. We leverage our app mentions feature on community a lot to alert people to questions that people might be having in the documentation or in the support board, so that we can sort of all rally to the cause and answer those questions and identify gaps and update the doc. And let's see, what else? We also have our own sort of doc Jira board, sort of a bug tracker for us, where we have projects and enhancements, but also where people anywhere in Lithium can make requests and enhancements for the documentation in case anything's out of date. Finally, and which is really one of our sort of main goals, is Susie and I know that we are by far not the only experts of these product areas, and we've given permissions to a lot of the support people as well as the product managers and engineers, and we encourage people to make edits. If they see a gap in the documentation, there's no reason to slow down updating that and having to send the request to us. People have the ability to go in and edit those and save them, and then we get flagged to just do a quality review for style and consistency and tone. So we're trying to get more, one of the important features of tribal knowledge base is the tribal part of it. So we want to be able to cull all that internal knowledge and enable everybody to update those docs. And on that, we also want our super users, people like you, to let us know if there are gaps, and by all means post your comments. And if you think that there are particular areas that you have a lot of information and examples and use cases, by all means, submit articles, post, adopt an area and let us know. We'd love to work with you to help beef up the content and get all those real world use cases and examples into the documentation.
Okay, so John, we did have a question in from Twitter. This is Ty Williams. So actually, let me do a quick screen share of his tweet here. Let's see. Do you guys see that?
No.
Yeah,
All right.
if you have Rover.
Okay. Let's see. It's working?
I had to pick the.
Oh, got it. Okay. So, let's see. So Ty says, I find the docs very detailed, but as a novice, it's information overload. Is it possible to get more novice tutorials?
So, I'm getting an echo here. Okay. I think there's a couple of things. So, there's a lot of detail in there, and one of the things that, with the reorganization of reordering the TKBs, we have put a lot of the intro about feature type stuff at the top of all those TKBs, about badges or about mentions. So that does sort of provide a diving board for a high-level overview and then where to go next. The other asset that might be really useful for you is that we do have the Lithium training site, and our training group creates a lot of tutorials and presentations and training materials that are on lithiumtraining.com. A lot of those are free offerings, and there are some certification and paid offerings. And Susie and I work closely with the training team in creating a lot of that content. So that might be a really good place to start to get that high-level overview before diving down into all the details of how to specifically do things. Was that, is that enough of an answer, or are you aware of those resources? We also...
Sorry, that was me.
Oh.
It would also be helpful to know if you're finding that more on the admin side or studio side, or if you're new with FreeMarker or things like that, because we do have some tutorials that on the developer side we could use more novice intro material for sure. We've been one of this like a studio for dummies thing, and getting started is something that we're working. We've heard a need for, so it's on our wish list and our backlog.
And with that, I don't know if we covered the areas that you were referring to. You can always email us at documentation@lithium.com with, hey, I'd like more intro, overview information on this particular topic or an area that you're having confusion with, and we will add it to our sort of list of things to do. Or it might be that we have that information, but it needs to be surfaced better. So definitely give us the details of what you're lacking.
Okay, great. So John, you mentioned this earlier and kind of talked about it, but one common question, I think, especially with technology, as technology changes and there is a lot of features, let's say, being added or changed almost on a monthly basis, we would say. What are some tips that you would have for keeping documentation and content updated? There's a lot going on, and sometimes it can be hard to keep everything in track. And I know you mentioned tools like Jira and things like that, but what are some top tips that you and Susie might have?
Oops, did I echo? Okay. I can share. Both of us can probably share sort of tips and best practices that we have working here with the tools that we've got. It's probably going to vary from company to company, depending on what internal tools and processes you use. But we work in an agile environment, and we have, I think we did a recent count that Susie and I are supporting about 20 different development teams. So we have yet to perform or come up with the ability to clone ourselves. So it's a little hard for us to be in all those meetings with all those teams. So in addition to the Jira board, our bug tracking board, a lot of the things that we do is we have weekly meetings with all of our product managers to sort of keep up to date with features that are going to be coming and rolling out. We have a weekly status page from all of the product and development organization of all the updates for their areas. So we have a lot of areas where we can sort of pull information from. We also, a lot of our teams use Confluence to put in all of their specs and feature work. We often watch a lot of those pages, so whenever anybody makes a change to it or there's updates, we get notified of that through email. Similarly with Jira, our bug tracking, we watch the boards and the bugs for each of those teams. So we filter a lot, sort of observe all of that. And there's some noise that comes through, but for the most part, it sort of keeps us up to date of what's happening. The other thing that we monitor is we're responsible for all of the text strings that you see in admin and studio, LSI, and we've got rules set up that when anybody checks a change to any UI text field in the product, we get an email, and we keep that out of our inbox. It goes to a nice subfolder. But whenever those check-ins happen, we can see the differences. It might be new strings that people are adding for features in development. It could be strings that have just changed. But then we monitor all those, and then we have access to go in. So a lot of times we're sort of working in real time, just in lockstep with the developers as things happen and respond to them. And then that enables us to sort of keep our big master list of notes of, hey, these features are going to be changing, and then we can sort of pre-identify whether we need new topics or topics that we already have that need to be edited. I don't know if you have other specific stuff on the developer side that you wanted to mention, Susan?
Mostly the same kind of things. The only last other thing that I guess maybe if you're working with a community that's heavily TKB based or forum based, like ours is, I monitor the community. I subscribe to UKBs. I subscribe to the developer forum. I subscribe to our documentation forum. And as I'm taking my commute in, I read through the notifications from the night before, and I answer. I use app mentions as much as possible to try to communicate with people who have alerted me to polls, or if someone's got a question and I realize that, oh, this isn't surfaced in the documentation yet very well, so let's try to do that. So I monitor the boards and I use the community. So that's, other than everything else that John said, that's just that's my other piece that I use on a daily basis.
And another thing that sort of is a tangent to that, we've started on our side, we've hooked up Lithium Social Web with our community, and I run the mobile app. So when our moderators are seeing topics come in, they actually will assign them to me in LSW, and that's another way that I can get notified that there's an unanswered topic or a question that's coming in. Since there's just two of us on the doc side, it's really easy to send that information to us. But that's been another useful tool of enabling our internal organization to surface questions and gaps to us through LSW. I don't know if you have anything to add from that.
So I think from the support side, we definitely crowdsource the documentation. Obviously, frequently asked questions that come up to the support portal. It's in my best interest, as well as my team, to get that documented and out there for customers to self-serve. One thing you'll probably notice if you've ever submitted cases to us is that with most how-to questions or anything, we always try to link an accompanying piece of documentation. that's actually a metric I track against my team's goals, just to see that they are referencing content from the community. So I always tell them that there's, for any how-to question, there should really be an accompanying piece of documentation. And if it doesn't exist and you can't link something along with your response to the customer, that is a point to either go and find an existing doc on that topic, or create a doc JIRA for John and his team to surface a new topic. So you won't see it in every single case. We still try to go above and beyond with our support and provide specific and clear steps for your particular use case. But I feel like having that documentation referenceable in any case, especially if you ever need to go back to it and just run through the steps, that's always helpful. And also just making docs a part of the team's goals to keep them up to date is really important.
So I know, Susie, actually earlier you mentioned subscribing to TKBs and things like that. How do you guys manage comments that come in through these? So I imagine that there would be a lot of comments ranging from all sorts of topics there. So how do you and John manage the comments that come in?
How do I do that? That's a good question. I kind of I look at it on if it's content. Well, if it's content I created, then I take it, and so we sort of divide it up on, hey, did you write it or did you write it? So we kind of do it that way. But the other thing I find that I do quite a bit is I end up being a bit of a mediator between, especially on the developer doc, between our community members and our engineering team or professional services. And so I'll take a question. If I know the answer, then I answer it right away, and if not, I'll go find the answer and respond. So that's how I manage it. And I try to make it as quick a response if I can, and if it's going to take a little bit longer, I'll privately message the person through our community and just let them know, hey, just because I would like a response. I would like to know if someone's working on it, it's going to take a little bit of time, then I let them know, and that's just how I would like to be treated if it were me. So that's what I try to do for other people, and I've gotten some nice thank yous for when I do that. So people seem to appreciate that. And now they know my app mention, and so people are doing this more and more frequently. I find that now they're saying, "Hey, Susan H, what's going on?" So it's good. It's good. It's fine. Do it.
And I think the at this point we haven't gotten to the point of there's so many posts coming in that we need to deal with. I mean, we do get app mentioned, and we'll obviously, we typically will respond to those first because it's obviously being asked directly of us, but we do have a whole product team and support team and everybody that's sort of monitoring this. So the stuff that's sort of drawn specifically to our attention through app mentions or particular docs that we own, that hits us, pretty quickly, usually within 24 hours, depending on how we've got stuff, digesting to our emails. But there's so many other people that are also responding on a regular basis. Our LDN team, our developer team, is really active in there. So a lot of stuff, again, in the spirit of wanting to crowdsource more, it doesn't all have to fall to us. And then I think we have just lots of other nets that are available, like the LSW thing. There might be stuff that comes in and it fell through my net. I didn't see it, and some other net cat picks it up. So yeah, wish there were a more specific answer there. We're just that productive. We can keep up with all the posts that you guys are making.
Baked goods help too. So if you mention these guys and want to throw in a little bribery, just send something their way.
Also, I'll just mention, I don't know, this sort of, as we're waiting sort of other comments to come in, we've also been recently started up a power users community where we have a community set up that has sort of some pre-run features and beta features, and it's basically a site where a lot of our Lithium stars and other users will go and play around with features, and we'll get a lot of posts in there of stuff that we're still developing, and that is another way for us to get early feedback from customers on upcoming features, and it helps identify, oh, we should have content on that, where we might not have realized that until after we went live. So we do have our beta programs and our Pug site that put some features out there in customers' hands early so that we can pre-identify topics that we think you guys will need when we go live.
Okay, great. And actually, we have a follow-up from Ty regarding his question earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick screen share of that comment. He actually posted on our blog, so let me go ahead and do that. Let's see. All right, so here's his question. Do you guys see it?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so just to expand, he wants more tutorials for a CM perspective rather than developers. Just give everyone a few minutes to read that. And then whoever wants to tackle this can go first.
Yeah, thanks for following up. This is exactly part of why I would love to get, that's why we're trying to get so much of the more reference documentation itself sort of auto-documenting so that I could do more things like this. There's a couple tutorials, you probably run across them. Right now they're currently in the developer knowledge base, TKB, and there's a component tutorial, so it's writing your first free marker code. And it's at a little bit of a, it takes a little bit of some leaps, but it does sort of walk you through building an initial component and doing some editing, and it's kind of simple, but it kind of shows you how FreeMarker can pull information from admin and how it can pull information from your database and display it to the community. That's one thing that might help you. And then what I tried to do with in the SDK, which as a community manager, it might be a little challenging to install, but they've brought it down so it's a fairly quick, just a couple scripts to run to do that. But what I try to do in the customization section there is do a tutorial that walks you through writing a component, creating a quilt and a page, and creating a layout, and doing some changes to a skin, and in a way that you could do it just in a single page. So that might be something for you to check out. The information for the SDK is in our current betas forum, and we've got links to the documentation there. So that might be a little bit more of an intro for you. It still might be a little bit of a deeper dive than you're ready, but I do see the need, and once I get some time, we will all try to get that going for you.
All right, John and Susie, or Jeff and Andy, do you guys have any like top tips or things to keep top of mind for any community managers, developers, people watching this hangout?
I could add a little bit to John's comments earlier on. For keeping track of the comments on the TKBs, it's something that the moderation team is heavily involved in. So we track using the recent post page. The mods also look through regularly each of the nodes, as well as using the LSW, which we, as John mentioned, we can escalate to him. But also we can use it to put a timer on to sort of remind us to go and follow up and make sure it's got a reply, so users aren't sitting for any length of time. And sometimes we may have escalated something to somebody and they may be unavailable or out of office, so it's kind of a good, the snooze option is giving us that option to actually go, oh yeah, we need to follow up, nobody's replied to that, see if we can find somebody else to help us out. So it's kind of a combination of everything, and sort of having some redundancy built in is kind of just great for us to actually be able to stay on top of stuff and make sure nobody is getting left hanging when possible.
Cool. And actually, we have another question from Lily on Twitter. So let me go ahead and just bring that in. So Lily is actually, this is her first time watching On Air with Lithium. So Lily, thank you so much for joining us. She asks, is there a training module for beginners to learn how to use the Lithium Tech API? Um, yeah, is there anything top of mind that you guys would recommend for her?
I'm clicking weird things on my desktop. Susie might have a different answer to this, but she just ran out to get a power cord for her since her battery is dying on the laptop. Well, the question went away. You're not presenting anymore for some reason.
Yeah, I switched to you, but do you want me to bring that back in?
Yeah, just present
Okay,
Susie.
one second.
So I'm wondering if I'm assuming you mean specifically like a Lithium training module. I know that the Lithium training team is working on a developer certification program right now, and Susie has been working with that quite a bit with the LDN team and training, and she might know if this is specifically covered in that. I wasn't quite sure what level that was going. So she's plugging in now and can tell you exactly what is in that.
Well, we're working on a developer certification training. Is that what you're talking about, John? Yeah. So we're rolling out a developer certification training, I believe, in September, and it's not quite. It'll provide you an overview for beginners to learn how to use Lycl and the API. It's going to be probably at a little bit of a higher level for you, but I think it'd be worthwhile to look at there. It's going to give you some information. What I think they're planning on doing is breaking out some of the smaller modules. I think the overall developer certification training is probably going to go in deeper depth than a more beginner. So yes and no. Let me think if there's better. I'd be curious to see if the using Lycl documentation and getting started, if that's too deep of a level, or if you need something a little bit broader, higher up. I'd be curious to hear feedback on that.
So Lily, if you hear this and have any further follow-up, feel free to let us know via Twitter or via the blog article, or we can follow up with you after this hangout as well. Let's see, John, do you guys have anything else you want to share today?
Not specifically. I think we've covered sort of the main topics. I guess what I'd say is I'd love to put a call to action out there. I don't know how many people are out here, but we'd love to hear about other. Of course, we'd love to hear what's working for you with the documentation. But if there are gaps or areas, obviously we hit some in the orientation around the developer world. But if there's other areas that we can provide more examples or use cases or specific areas that you feel need more attention, let us know. Documentation at lithium.com. We'll go to both of our inboxes, and we'd love to hear from you because we're basically here to make you successful. I think Susie had something.
Yeah. One of the biggest challenges at Lithium is writing for the developer community is we've got such a broad range of technical levels in our developer community. So what would be really helpful is for me is to get a better handle on community managers, etc. What's their depth level of what kind of are you familiar with certain languages? Are you familiar with Java? Are you familiar with SQL? Are you familiar with HTML or CSS? That helps me kind of have an idea of the range I'm dealing with and how deep I need to go and how I can plan on maybe providing different levels of documentation for different levels of expertise. So that's one thing that I struggle with, just because our developer community is awesomely broad. So it's a good problem to have, and it's a challenge to solve for.
Cool. So it looks like we have no further questions. Again, thank you guys so much for joining us today at On Air with Lithium. I know that John and Susie and Jeff and Andy were really excited to share their knowledge with you. So if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to post them in the blog article or on Twitter, and we'll be sure to follow up. Or, like John said, you can email documentation@lithium.com. And if you have any future ideas for Hangouts or On Air with Lithium, let us know. Go ahead and post those in the blog article as well. We're really here to help you guys succeed as community managers, as developers, whatever it is, we're here to help. So again, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.